welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Now, Nigeria's democratic journey has witnessed 6 different phases of election with growing experiences in the transition process since the return to civil rule on May 29, 1999. Our political platforms have remained strategic in the evolution of these dispensations and still play a critical role in the survival of democracy in Nigeria through the power of ideas, ideologies, and agenda. Now it's 11 days to the first round of the 2023 general election, the 25th of February, the presidential and National Assembly polls. And the questions on the lips of many citizens have to do with the agenda of the contending parties. Now tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will seek answers to some of those questions. But before we go into the discussion proper, let's get to see this report put together by political correspondent Timothy Yusuf.
The 2023 general elections, from years to months, are now days. The political space has been cleared for open campaigns and rallies, door-to-door vote seeking, town hall meetings, mounting of billboards, printing and sharing of posters, and the like. Winding down, it is important for political parties to focus on issues rather than attacks on personalities, mudslinging, character assassination, destruction of property, and many other clandestine activities aided by gangsterism.
And out of the 18 political parties, any of them can actually emerge to be the people who sit at the center to run the affairs of this country. What Nigerians want to hear, one, the issue of insecurity. Paramount. We have gone around the 6 geopolitical zones in the country, and everybody is talking about security. How are you going to ensure that lives and properties are secured? People want to be able to invest, not just for Nigerians, but also people who want to come to Nigeria to invest. Then again, our educational sector. What will be the plan so that a young person goes into school, come out after 4 years, and is able to get a job or something to do? What are the plans that we have put in place? And divestment. We need to look at other ways to run and support our economy. Oil and gas. Everybody is talking about energy transition. Everybody is talking about leave the oil in the ground. What alternatives do we have? We have agriculture, we have solid minerals. What are the things you want to tell Nigerians?
With campaigns germane to deepening Nigeria's democracy, many believe they will provide the electorate with an understanding of the plans in store for them, thereby helping them make informed decisions as to whom to vote for come February 25 and March 11, 2023, when they head to the polls.
We don't want a situation whereby you're giving us a wonderful document and we're looking at these documents, and then you get into office and Nigerians are saying, can you be held accountable to what you have written in this document? And you're saying, oh, please give me a little time to begin to think about it. I think that any serious political party that is going into that is not just looking at that document, but have also put into programs and spread out those documents in the 4 years that they are going to be in office with specific deliverables and wins that they will have within those documents, that they can now come out and say, Nigerians, please hold me accountable. Not just a political promise, but a promise indeed, because you are interested in the development and sustenance of our country, Nigeria.
Decent conduct by political parties, political players and watchers say, will take away bad blood and the penchant for violence at the slightest provocation between rival political parties. Issue-based campaigns will also help Nigerians understand what is important when electing their leaders, and not to identify with politics of bitterness. Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
And that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guests. I would like to welcome to this program Hadnatu Musawa, who is Deputy Spokesperson All Progressives Congress, the APC. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
We're also joined by Barrister Ilemona Onoja, is Director New Media of the PDP Presidential Campaign Organization, Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
Right. And we're joined tonight by Folashade Aliu, National Campaign Secretary, NNPP Presidential Campaign Organization. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
As you all know, at the appropriate time, you can join in the conversation in the studio. At that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. But for now, we'll start off with some of the issues. And yes, it's just 11 days to the first. How has it been on the soapbox and the campaign trail?
I think again, thank you, Mr. Stober, for having me on the show tonight. I think for us, it's been a very rigorous campaign, obviously. I think it's one of the longest campaigns that we've had in the country. And but at the same time, I think this particular cycle of campaign has been rather exciting for Nigerians generally, because for the first time in a very long time, you see Nigerians from different demographics being interested in participating in the process. And that really lightens our hearts, because it gives us the opportunity to sort of be able to reach out to more Nigerians in the hope that we get the support that we need to ensure that in 11 days' time or in 12 days' time, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is returned as the rightful winner of the election.
All right, we'll hear this. We'll ask you the same thing from the perspective of the PDP. How has it been?
It has been interesting, to say the least. Definitely the longest campaign cycle. I mean, up until this electoral cycle, we used to have campaigns done in 3 weeks. 3 months. On the other hand, with the new Electoral Act, it gives us 6 months, to do the whole campaign process. So we've had that rigorous process of having to engage over the period of that 6 months, sometimes with certain demographics, stakeholders, and Nigerian citizens repeatedly, and all of that. And it's been done in a rather interesting climate, because more than ever before, there are certain levels of frustration, certain levels of annoyance at the situation that we find ourselves in as a country. There's certain levels of excitement for what the future could possibly hold in a post-Buhari era. So it's been interesting.
All right, and we'll ask Folashade Aliu the same question from the NNPP point of view. That's somewhere we're going with all of this.
Well, once again, thank you for having me. For us, it has been very interesting. I believe that the 6 months gap is really very good. It gives you the opportunity to meet face-to-face. My principal, distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Kankuso, and the RMK 2023 team, we've been crisscrossing. We have been to, by now, almost 600 local governments across this country. So it's not only by flying, it's not on social media. We have been everywhere talking to people, looking at them in the face and understanding the situation, looking at what is going on in the country, and that prepares us for the first time, a candidate that is willing not only to go on televisions or to go on social media or to just go to certain city centers. We have been running through forests and villages, and it has been very interesting. So we're good to go.
Well, I asked this question because our viewers may not know this. We started this program, and that's when they had the opportunity to see who's in here and who's representing which party. But just before we started this program, the three of you walked in here, and there was some light banter, exchange of views. Everything looked so nice and calm. Can you honestly say that this is reflective of the campaign, the proper campaigns that have been run across the country all the time? Because so many Nigerians have expressed worry about how the campaigns were going. But now I have spokespersons for three parties here, and they all seem to be getting on fine.
Well, for me, the way I see it, we're all Nigerians and we're all human beings. And regardless of what side of the divide that you're on, I believe that all of us really want what is in the best interest of Nigeria. So, of course, as a result of that, you find that people become very passionate about their cause or what they believe in. For me, personally, I think all the presidential candidates, and I've said it before in many interviews that I've done, are very heroic patriots. The fact that they're willing to give themselves to the service of Nigeria is something that is commendable in and of itself. But that's still notwithstanding the fact that I have a candidate who I feel, despite how brilliant these other candidates are, I still believe that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the one that's going to give the best deliverable for Nigeria. So yes, of course, we walked in having light band. I don't think it was completely as light as probably you heard. There was a bit of crisscrossing at some point. But I understand it's because we're all very passionate, and we're passionate, it stems from the fact that we love Nigeria. So we continue for the next 11 days to continue to amplify the message and the vision that each of our candidates have. And of course, like my brother here said, we're in very tenuous sort of atmosphere where things are very, very difficult for Nigeria, which I know that we'll probably discuss that more in depth later on. And but despite everything, I believe that we all want what is in the best interest of Nigeria, and you know, may the best man win, and I hope that is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
So what are your parties thinking about some of the issues and the build-up to the elections? You think these need to be strengthened if we agree that all the parties want is the best for Nigeria?
I think that while we may, you know, on the surface, discuss and reach the common consensus that we all want the best for Nigeria, what the best is differs depending on where you're standing. Where certain people accrue the best to the benefit of a minuscule few, and then you have a country that wallows in poverty, and then all your developmental indices are in the red and the negative, I don't know that you've achieved the best for Nigeria. So it depends on where you're standing from. And in our political party, the PDP, as represented and typified by its presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, we want the best for Nigeria, best where we can point to reasonable, consistent growth over a period of time. We can say that, oh, there are 22 million out-of-school children. There were 22 million out-of-school children at the beginning of the administration, and at the end, we don't have that number. We had unemployment at 33% at the beginning of the administration. At the end, we don't have that number. We have inflation at 22% at the beginning of the administration. At the end, we don't have that number. Simply put, the campaign of the Atiku president, the entire Atiku presidential campaign is built on 5 cardinal points. 1, we've never been this divided as a nation. Of course, never since the Civil War. Would rather work for a better, more united Nigeria. We've never been this insecure as a nation. Would rather have a more secure Nigeria, want to implement policies that will secure Nigeria. Our economy has never been this unproductive as a nation. We prefer a more productive economy. Our education has never been this bad. We've never had this sort of lack of access to education in Nigeria, which, I mean, like I said, 22 million out-of-school children, the highest number in the world. We would want a Nigeria where our children are able to go to school and not just get an education, get the right sort of education that places them in a position where they can compete with their age mates and their, their compatriots, well, their demographics across the world. And then finally, we want a Nigeria that works for everybody. At the moment, the Nigeria that we have works for a few. So we would like to restructure the country so that there's devolution of powers to the lower tiers of government at the state and the local government levels. Those are the lower tiers of government that are closer to the people, that is then better able to deliver social welfare to the people and improve overall our lives, our livelihoods, and our welfare.
All right, for the NNPP, would you say the campaigns have been strictly in compliance with the guidelines and talking about issues? And if that is so, where then comes the feeling that some of the parties have not been able to rein in their supporters and people are still worried about violence?
Well, before I address the violence issue, I want to say that our campaign is strictly grassroots. That is you and I, your business, your family, what you do, what makes you a Nigerian. And if you look further, there's a difference between the leadership and governance. Leadership first. We have never been this divided, that's correct. But you'll see that even in our security situation, I know people that has been kidnapped. I know people on the Kaduna train, and I've heard them. So that tells you that the political will is very important. Before you get to that, the leadership, what kind of leader are we looking for in Nigeria today? You want somebody that is accessible, somebody that is competent, somebody that has the capacity, somebody that knows what's on in the street. Not only sitting there somewhere, somebody coming in, some consultant telling you this and that. You want a leader that understands what is happening to you as a nation, to you as a person, to us as a people. And that's what we stand for. In terms of the violence that you mentioned, I think it's very important that the content that we put out there, as our parties, political parties, as the media, on social media, it's very important because my principal said on Sunday, unfortunately, we didn't have the other 3 candidates showed up. They couldn't show up. They chose not to talk to Nigerians. And what he said is that social media is good and bad. It depends on what you use it for. And the fact of the matter that all these sponsored polls that are out there, what do people think about the effect, the deliverables, the impact of it at the end of the day? This is a competition. Somebody is going to win. Some people will lose. And the fact of the matter is that when you direct the psychic of people or certain group of people in certain direction, and that's all they know. Like, for instance, there are certain parts of this country we cannot conveniently campaign. It shouldn't be. And there are some certain aspects of this country that even for you to allow your team to be on the road, everybody is sitting at the edge of the table or the chair. It should not be. So my appeal, and the appeal of my principal, is that, look, let us be very, very mindful. Because why is that important? You need a leadership that people look towards as a mentor. They listen to everything we say. Sometimes they misinterpret, but they look at the body language and the rest of it. So it is important that whatever we put out there, we need to stop boiling ourselves. We need to stop calling names. We need to be focused, because at NNPP, my principal, Distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, believe that if you have something to offer Nigerians, you don't need to go the violent way. And lastly, I want to also share with you that there is the National Peace Committee that we all signed. We were all supposed to sign this document. And after the document was signed for the first round, they sent us some information that they've been monitoring. It is only NNPP out of the top 4 that does not record any violent or violence activity anywhere across the nation. So we need to be very mindful. And from the onset, our leader, our national leader, the presidential candidate of NNPP said that, look, we're out there to grow. We're out there to sell our country to the world. We're out there for that child that doesn't have anybody and needs to become somebody. So let us put our message or messages out there. And that's what you see in our blueprint.
I'd like to chip in on the violence.
Right, yes.
I'd like to chip in on the violence point. The presidential candidate, supporters of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party have been attacked thus far in 6 states, with at least 2 of those places recording casualties. And we've been attacked from within and from without. We've been attacked in Borno, we've been attacked in Kaduna, we've been attacked in Zamfara, casualties in Zamfara, casualties in Borno. We've been attacked 3 times in Lagos. We've been attacked 5 times in Rivers. And then there's one more state that eludes my mind. And at every point in time, presidential candidate of the party has said, very focused, we're not going to respond in kind. There's only one place to respond, at the ballot box on the 25th of February, to ensure that we have a democratic experience post May 29, 2023, that is devoid of this sort of acts of violence. It's been a mantra in our party since the presidential candidate of the PDP said, my political ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian citizen. And it is the disposition that we take towards the elections, even in the face of these sorts of heinous acts of violence. And so it is, I think that at some point we're going to have to ask where the failure of security is in identifying, in preventing, and then in prosecuting these sorts of attacks. And that it fits into the wider issue of the violence that we've experienced and we've suffered, fits into the wider issue of the failure of the current administration and the party in power to live up to its promises that it will provide a safer, more secure Nigeria for everybody.
And can I piggyback onto what both of them have said about the violence? So with the violence, I think even us, we were attacked. We've been attacked in Kogi, in Katsina, we were attacked. I was actually present when the attack happened. And people that were attacked were individuals. It is very sad that we get to a process where people feel the need to do these violent attacks. However, I think it's very pertinent for us to ask where these attacks are coming from. There's no political party that's making it a policy and asking others to go and attack. What is important is anytime there are these snippets of violence, I think it is important for the authorities to do the relevant investigation and to be able to bring these parties to book. It doesn't benefit anyone, especially the leading party. It doesn't benefit the people that are going to win this election to attack anyone. We have no reason to do so. So when they say that people have been attacked, just as we've been attacked, are they trying to insinuate that they were attacked by a certain quarter or anything like that? Because when we were attacked, we didn't attribute it to anyone else. What we did was we reported it to the authorities and asked them to take the matter up and bring these individuals to book, because it's attacks on anyone is absolutely unacceptable.
Okay, it's a good thing you said no party has a policy to be violent, and parties across the board have alleged that all have come under attacks. So the question is, I raised this earlier, would it be the failure of the leadership of the parties to rein in their supporters, or there is a disconnect between what the leadership thinks and what the supporters do?
I would like to jump forward and prefer an answer to that question before anybody else. And I'm sorry, and I say this advisedly, no, I do not agree with you that isn't the policy of a political party. We have on record, as recently as 2 days ago, as recently as 2 days ago, a video of the former chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, speaking and instigating violence, as recently as 2 days ago, and calling on people who were in the room with him to intimidate others. As recently, it's there on social media. It's a properly recorded video. We have, again, in Borno, a sitting APC member, in fact, one of our members of our of the PCC, Oseaneni, filed a lawsuit against a leader of the APC who was asking and was speaking in a local language and asking people that if people come out on election day and they do not vote for the APC, they should be attacked. There are people, there are leaders of the party on record, in videos, in audios, who pursue a violent mantra. I will not deign to speak for the NMPP or the Labour Party that isn't here, but we don't have that sort of similar record for any other political party. So I don't think it's glib. I don't think, and that's speaking to the policy of the party. Speaking to government, the government in the party in power at the center and in control of all the security agencies is the APC. If attacks have taken place and they have been reported to the relevant authorities and perpetrators of these attacks are not arrested, they're not prosecuted, they're not convicted, they're not put away so that they cannot repeat these attacks, then the failure of the party in power is perpetrating a cycle of violence. And somebody must take responsibility.
So can I jump in here?
Yeah, sure, go
I
ahead.
want to break down what he said now. The first thing he said was that a former chairman of the party, right? A former chairman of the party. There is a PCC in place. There's an NWC. He did not say that a present member of the PCC or a present member of the PCC was part of any orchestrated attack. So when you say, can you drop your phone, please? So when you say a former chairman of the party, that is an individual. That is not policy. If you do know what policy is, that has nothing, this is an individual. And then he says that there's nobody from their own party. But we've been attacked in Kogi State, where we've had brooms being burnt and stuff like that. So he cannot say that there's nobody from their party. We've had threats. We've had threats.
So if I can say something about
right, okay,
that.
so let's hear from
There's no policy,
NTA.
and I maintain that there's no policy of any
Okay,
party
fine.
that says there are individuals. And he's right. These are individuals that need to be brought to book. The authorities have that responsibility.
Fine.
But it has nothing to do with our campaign council.
See,
Let's hear from the NNPP.
I think that party leadership needs to take responsibility. And just like I said earlier, if these things are happening and the followership are looking up, they said the fish, I think they said, begin to rot him from the head. If the leadership of the party, and when we're talking about the leadership, not just the presidential candidate in this matter, the management of the party, if they do not stand firm against it, but sometimes some party, they feel threatened. They're not sure what's going to happen. And they begin to do all these things in a violent manner just to do what? To begin to advocate indirectly for voters' apathy. Because as a mother, I cannot sit in my house and I know that some social media messages has been going on that somebody is going to die, somebody just died, they just cut somebody's head, they just, and allow your children to go out. So we should rise beyond that. So my appeal to both the PDP and the APC, because these things happen, it looks like it's happening more among the two of them, is that they need to find a way to disseminate that information that if they have something to offer Nigerians, they need to cut down on it. And like I said, the National Peace Committee is totally neutral, and they are monitoring everybody. And when they came out with the result of what they found out and they gave certain percentage, the two of them has the most, and of course the Labour Party, that means that something is not going right. So let's find a way to modify our content. Let's find a way to
Can I
put
say
our
that
messages
I
out
would agree
and
with,
do
I would
much
agree
better.
I would
we can
agree
do
with
better
Ms.
as a
Mashadi.
nation.
I think the leadership of the parties do need to take responsibility, and this is why Governor Sanwo-Olu a couple of days ago, when an alleged attack was happened on the Labour Party, he called for peace, and he asked for the authorities to do the right investigation and to bring the party to book.
All right, at this point, I would just like to say that we have a number of reports that will go along with this program. I believe that we are ready with the first of those reports, and this one from Lagos.
Campaigns and rallies are in top gear. Political parties are leaving nothing to chance to garner support from eligible voters across the country. All of these parties have agenda and proudly dish them out to Nigerians.
They would appear to have gone around most parts of the country, at least those four, and in various rallies, campaigns, meeting with selected groups, they appear to be ready for the election.
This time around, we have the electoral law in place. We did not have that in 2019, and that was part of the problem. Number two, we had a situation in which we were able to test a lot of things, including the new technology, which is the beavers, in several off-cycle elections.
Nigerians say they are more concerned about how these parties intend addressing burning issues like insecurity, corruption, infrastructure, amongst others.
Apart from creating awareness, nothing happens in those rallies. They're just jamborees. Whatever is said in rallies mean nothing, absolutely nothing. It's a one-way communication.
But one will hope that between now and then, three things will happen. That the fuel scarcity will have improved, so that it will make it easy for the movement and the distribution of election materials. I will make it easy also for the voters to go from place to place. We also expect that the scarcity of naira will have improved.
Nigerians insist that political parties must without fail fulfill their promises, as inability to do so will mean more harm than good to the Nigerian nation.
report from Lagos, and the next one is from Kaduna.
It is less than 2 weeks to the general elections. Tension is high and the polity is becoming heated by the day. Political parties at various levels are engaging in strategic meetings and rolling out their campaign manifestos aimed at addressing national issues with a view of winning electorates. The election is to give birth to a crop of leaders who will be at the helm of affairs at various levels for the next 4 years.
If we can remember, there are some local governments across Nigeria which has been held to hostage by some people named Boko Haram. And with the effort of Muhammad Buhari, we have reduced the Boko Haram issues. Based on these achievements, I think it is something that every Nigerian is seeing, can testify, can attest to.
Petroleum now is more than, day before yesterday, even yesterday, I bought a liter of petroleum at about 350 naira. So definitely, well, that is the petroleum. When we look at the foodstuffs, bag of rice, instead the PDP, when PDP was in power, it was around 7,500, 8,000. Now the bag of rice is more than 40,000. So almost everything, essential amenities, job opportunities, PDP will definitely bring back job opportunities.
Our presidential candidate had been rallying around the whole part of the country by road. And as at last week, he has covered more than 500 local government areas, which no any other presidential candidate has performed so far. And it's not only about going by road. At least he has seen for himself and for the party, when he becomes the president, he knew the peculiarities and the differences or the problems.
We are reaching virtually house to house, ward to ward, local government to local government. We have crisscrossed over the senatorial district of the state, campaigning, and honestly, we are very, very happy with what we have seen. And we have confidence that we are not only going to upset the so-called big parties, we are going to win.
The presidential and national assembly elections is slated for 25th of February 2023, while that of the governorship and state assemblies comes up on 11th of March same year.
Back here in the studio, let's turn attention to a segment of the populace and see what the parties are up to. And I'm talking about women in politics now. Well, tonight, we have two women here.
And a man in the middle.
And a man in the middle.
All right, so it's boxed in.
Exactly. And you better stay boxed in.
So, beginning from the NNPP, on the campaign trail, what was the response of women? And from the party itself, how has the party responded to women issues, even from its composition?
Well, let's say charity begins at home, right? Within the party, whether with the youth section of the party, the women, the management, the PCC, for instance, I'm the, what you call the DG of the campaign, even though we call it National Campaign Secretary. So that is to say that we believe in our women, and we have a lot of women amongst us, at every level, even in the state. We have women that are contesting as governors, for governorship, as governorship candidates. We have women that are contesting, across the board. The fact of the matter is that we recognize the fact, I told you we're grassroots based. And the fact of the matter is that even on that election day, you will see what is the percentage of women that are out there. What have we done in terms of taking care of women issues? Whether it's health, even when you talk about education. I'll give you an instance. Our distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Konkosu told us a story. He said he had a school in Kano, a private school, not by the government, just out of his own foundation, that was built for the headsmen, the kids, the kids of the headsmen, especially the ones that goes around. And at the end of the day, the women, their mothers, said, look, we are so excited with what these children have been able to teach us at home. We want to be taught in the formal setup. So for me, charity begins at home. Let people see the actions that you are taking or that you have taken in order to protect the issues that affect women. And what did he do at that point? He had to extend the schools to say the children should come in the morning and the mothers should come in the afternoon. Well, so in terms of NMPP as a party, we are even going beyond the 35%. We believe that we have strong women. We have women that are committed, that are dedicated to the cause of the party. We have women that are disciplined enough that they want to run for offices, and they're very determined and they're very focused. So women is not an issue for us.
All right, let's hear you from
women. We're enjoying it.
You want to hear from me?
Yes.
Okay.
So he can pick up all.
As long as he behaves, then we'll be fine. Just joking. Yeah, you know, for us, I think, apart from just being a candidate, I think Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is one of the Nigerian leaders that has shown a lot of respect and for women and tried to give back dignity to women. He had a woman as his deputy and encouraged another woman as his deputy when he was governor of Lagos and subsequently. And, you know, when the campaign council was constituted, I was one of the first people that was nominated. He nominated me to be the deputy spokesperson. And he did that because he had so much respect for women. APC is the only one that has a woman of northern extraction, Aisha Dahiru Binani in Adamawa. And we have so many women all over the party. In our action plan, he talks very passionately about his plans for women, about how he's going to protect women from abuse, try to make institutional frameworks that will protect women. He talks about how he's going to include women in his cabinet, how he's going to include women in different, at the top tiers of the agencies, how he's going to be able to also interact with the different arms of government to see how they can protect women and how they can augment the plight of women. So when it comes to the issue of women, I think it's one of the, you talk about youth, but for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima, the issue of women is at the very top of their plans. And for us, especially from a northern extraction, because we know traditionally, you know, women don't really participate so much in politics. But he has encouraged us because what we have done is we have turned our weaknesses in our communities, conservative communities, to strength, whereby we go into the rural areas where the men cannot traverse into the houses of into houses in the very rural settings. But he sends us to go into these settings, which is the reason why we know that at the very grassroots level, that we have such a strong hold on the grassroots, and that is perpetrated mostly because of the youth and the women. So as far as women are concerned, under the leadership of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigerian women will never be as protected and never be as promoted as they will be under an Asiwaju government.
So now you have the advantage of having listened to them.
I'm going to answer this question in two levels.
All right.
On the party policy level, and then on the personal level of the candidate of the party. So on the party policy level, the party has had a long history of the participation of women at all tiers of government at the highest possible levels. Long history. And if we begin to reel off names of women who have played significant roles in the formulation, the design, formulation, implementation of policy, we probably wouldn't finish the program. Women who have played significant roles in government over the course of the party's history, not just at the party, at governmental level, in party administration. Women all over the place, at all tiers, the federal, the state, the local governments, at all tiers. So it's on that level, and I can be fact-checked, I don't think any administration has involved women as much as the PDP did when it was in power. Constantly met its 35% what's the affirmative action. Thank you very much for the word. It constantly met that. Not just, and these weren't just women who were involved for the purposes of augmenting the numbers. The
35% affirmative action, can you break that down and let us know in which in exactly which administration and who
I
and
can
who?
tell you.
Because I can't remember any 35%
I could begin to call. I could begin to call them.
Yes, please, go ahead. I think we need to know that because that would be education.
Well, he's got the floor now. I could speak to the presence of women from the very first PDP administration, right, and which was the Obasanjo Atiku administration. I could tell you Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, I can tell you Ndio Kiriko Nyuike, I can tell you Josephine Aneni, I can tell you what's her name now, the Obieze Kwesili, I can tell you, and I can literally go on.
That's not 35%.
But I mean, it is a long, it is a long.
But it's not 35%.
It's a long list, and
but it isn't.
At some point you're going to have to fact check me.
Okay,
right?
So,
and it is
maybe
a long
Nigerians
list.
will fact check us.
Now, on the personal score, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar understands the role of women in uplifting families out of poverty. And we hear the mantra, if you empower a woman, you empower a family, which is the reason why he runs a microfinance bank, where 80% of all the loans given out of that bank are given to women. It makes economic sense. From an economic perspective, it makes sense, because women have higher repayment percentages than men do. But it also makes more social welfare sense, because when empowered, statistically, women uplift their families out of poverty more than men do. And we recognize that, which is the reason why, coming off of his personal experience, the campaign promise, the campaign commitment is that there will be a very strong policy towards financial inclusion for women. A big part of political inclusion for women must also be that they're financially empowered to be able to take better, make better participation in politics. And I'll end on this note. One of the most commendable things any woman in government has done, one of the most commendable things, was done by Hajia Titi Abubakar when she started Woodcliff, right? That foundation that focused on removing women from, statistically women are trafficked, very high numbers in our country and across the world. And that Woodcliff led to the passage of the bill at the National Assembly for the formation of what we know as NAPTIP, the National, against the National Agency, for the Prevention of Trafficking in Persons, so that we'll be able to reduce significantly, and it's shown results over the years. So we're coming from that sort of background to say that if elected, if Nigerian people trust us with their mandate, hopefully in 11 days, on the 25th of February, there will be that sort of demonstration.
Right, let's go down to how we can sum the messages that you have put across, what as a party and your presidential candidates have. Now, what kind of message goes across as to tell the people and give you the confidence that indeed you'll win at the polls?
In many respects, Nigeria stands today we're speaking, where we stood on the 28th of May, 1999. In many respects, we were poor, we were a pariah nation, excluded from the international community. We had very few government institutions that worked, and those that worked had been run down. We were unproductive as an economy. The economy of the country, the GDP of the country, if I'm not mistaken, as at the 28th of May 1999, stood at $49 billion. Significantly, we left power in 2015. By the time we left, we'd experienced GDP growth like we'd never experienced in our national history, never before. We'd formed institutions to do all sorts of things. We had improved the quality of the life, the welfare, and the well-being of the average Nigerian. We were on the path, irrefutably on the path to socio-political growth and development. And then we encountered an illness, in the shape, form, and size of the APC, which has taken us off that path and has taken us back decades. We're poorer than we've ever been. Our farms have been less productive than they've ever been. Our people are significantly more unemployed than they've ever been, with unemployment standing at 33%, youth unemployment at 52%, with inflation standing in 20 percentiles, with I mean all sorts of negative. There is no developmental indices anywhere in the world that you can use and measure the APC's last 8 years that you can call it a success. It has been a government of sorrow, tears, and blood, and illness. What we are saying to the Nigerian people is give us the opportunity to bring back people who are experienced in resolving these sorts of crises, in treating these sorts of illnesses, so that we can recover together as a country and be placed firmly, irretrievably, irrefutably back on the path to social-political growth and economic development for all of our people.
All right.
Well,
yes, what message is it?
Oh, yes. Well, I don't know why I think he's got a case of laughing gas or something. If the case was so much of a utopia in 2015, Nigerians wouldn't have booted the PDP out in the way that they did. PDP was a mess, 16 years of a mess. We had an opportunity in 1999 to go into this fourth republic. We had everything at our fingertips. But PDP came and completely bastardized Nigeria. There is no doubt there are many, many areas that PDP was able to record a lot of successes, and we understand that. But by the time in 2015, it was such an abysmal story that Nigerians completely came out, and it was a revolution that they booted them out. And granted, things have not gone exactly as the APC would have envisaged. We have to admit that there have been areas that APC has been able, when I say APC now, I'm talking about APC, the Buhari regime, has been able to record a lot of gains, right? But then there are some areas that there have been challenges, that is true. But we also have to remember at the time when APC came into government, because of the abysmal job that PDP did, we had a recession, we came from a recession, we came out of the recession, then we had the COVID. We had the COVID coming out of the COVID. We now had the Ukraine war. All these issues sort of played a part in not sort of allowing APC to record the kind of, the Buhari administration, APC, to record the kind of growth that it should have. And so we come now in 2023 with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and a vision that while it is on an APC platform, we say that there are areas that we feel that a Buhari administration has done very well. And we are not going to divorce ourselves from those successes of the Buhari administration. And we are not running away from the Buhari administration at all. We are proud of those areas that they have been able to do well. And we want to be able to make progress on those. And then there are areas that there have been challenges. There is no doubt about that. And these are the areas that we are, as a party, or rather as a campaign, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is looking at those areas and preferring the sort of solutions required to give Nigerians the sort of deliverables that they need.
I don't mean to interject, but can you mention any areas that the Buhari administration has been
Buhari administration has done very well in infrastructure. Okay, Buhari, yes, I mean,
I like to challenge that.
I don't mind if you challenge it. It is what it is. I mean, and then the Buhari administration has done very well in social investment program. There was nothing like a social investment program before the Buhari administration came into. Well, it's true. Okay. Did you have a social investment? Because I didn't.
Okay. So these are the messages we put in the
Yeah, you know, this is it. And then we want Nigerians to look at what the future, because we don't want to be bogged down only by the past. We're looking at the future. Well, I'm not going to sit down here and talk about all the areas that I feel PDP failed in the last 16 years. It is what it is. And we have passed that. We have now moved on. And there has been 8 years of a Buhari administration. And again, there have been areas that there have been a lot of challenges. But we are now providing solutions for the future. I'm not going to be bogged down by the past. We're looking ahead at the future, a brighter future.
Well, thank you very much.
Which, from your perspective, what's the message you're giving when people say, well, you've not been in power?
Well, we've not been in power.
Right.
However, what I see between PDP and APC, like my principal would say, it's bad. The difference between both of APC and PDP is bad and very bad, and I would say super bad, in the sense that when APC came, for me, it was, I don't want to say it's a 419 message. They were able, people were looking, yearning for the change. And you notice that everything that happened, it's always PDP did this and that. Now, 8 years, fast forward, she's saying PDP did this and did that. So my thing is that when you have a party, a governing party that is not ready to take responsibility, it's very dangerous, extremely dangerous. And then you have a presidential candidate that will not answer questions, that will not talk to anybody, that will share questions, even outside of this country. It's very dangerous. Nigerians will need to beware. Now, coming to what's our message to Nigerians? You know, when they say Kwankwansia, we say Amana. Amana means trust. We were talking about leadership, we were talking about political, we can talk about everything we want to talk about. At the end of the day, what's the impact? What are the deliverables of the policies that are put out there? And how do you and I feel the deliverables and the impact of those policies? Now, the point that we tell people, and the reason why we go out to see people face-to-face, one-on-one, community to community, like I said, we've done more than 500 local government, is not because we enjoy going on the road. It's because we want to get ourselves prepared on the first day. It is one thing when you see, when you feel, when you touch what is wrong with your people. And the difference between going to rallies and, putting messages, sometimes some of them doesn't even say anything at rallies. And then you find that at the end of the day, all of these surrogates will say, well, the presidential candidate will say, I didn't make that promise. We've heard that. So for us, the number one thing is the leadership. And we are saying that education is very important. Look at the state of our education today. How many of us here can put our kids or grandchildren in public school today? Now, that's one thing to think about. The teachers, do you have planned to train them? Yes, we do. Now, when you're talking about security, you're talking about the ungoverned areas in this country. What do you intend to do with ungoverned areas? We have a lot of programs set aside for that. What do we want to do with the military and the paramilitary? Because we know that what we have is not sufficient. And the question people will ask you is, how do you want to pay for this? There are so many ways that, just like my principal said on Sunday, distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Kwankwaso said, when you have the will, you have the way. Because the money is there. If we increase our crude production, if we close on wastages, among other things, people come to this country, here lift our gold, our mineral resources for free, or for little or nothing to the government. So we have plans, we have means, the money is there, the people is there, and if you put the right ingredients in the right pot, you will get the right taste of food.
All right.
And that's why we're a food basket.
Well, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, there'll be more on the upcoming general election. And at that time, we'll open the phone lines, and that means you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Lagos Ibadan is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
Like I said, I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportation, kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Right, thanks for staying with us. This period will open the phone lines and you can get to be part of the discussion. Now, we say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we'd also like to encourage you to go straight to the point, keep it short and simple. Your question or your comment. We say to you, don't bother too much about the greetings. Just a mere hello would do. And we expect that so many others would get the opportunity to get on the platform and air their views. So let's keep these calls coming through, but we'll start off at this point with another in our series of reports. On this one, I think, Enugu. Yes, let's get this report from Enugu.
Politics. Since the inception of democracy in 1999, the politics of Enugu State has been dominated by the People's Democratic Party, PDP. But there is a clear indication that the litigation over rightful candidate crises within the parties and individual differences have effectively reared ugly heads to malfortunes of parties in the 2023 elections.
But this time around, we need to change some things with our voting power.
We want to make a change to know if APGA will give Enugu what Enugu wants.
It's based on the individual. It's not about party. That's why if you look at political terrain now, you see some members of PDP campaigning for APC. You see members of PDP campaigning for Labour.
Already, one of the top contenders during the last PDP primaries is now the governorship candidate of the Labour Party after dumping the PDP. In spite of the diminishing fortune of the PDP, the candidate says he's not distracted towards his statement of purpose to make Enugu State one of the top 3 states in Nigeria in terms of gross domestic product and achieve a 0% rate in the poverty headcount index, among other goals.
Our vision is to grow the economy of Enugu State and make it one of the top 3 states in this country.
On ground, there is no way APC will not take over Enugu State.
As the waiting game gets closer and more intense, the tougher it seems for participating parties heading in different directions in a battlefield. The APC, PDP, LP, and APGA are the 4 major parties that have so far displayed commitments to win the governorship elections.
People are really aware at this point in time that they need the best.
APGA, we're really serious. We're working very hard to make sure that we occupy the Lion Building come 2023.
All parties involved embrace peace. If there is peace, we are going to have peaceful election.
On the other hand, the youth have been asked to get their PVCs ready and meet at the polls to vent their bottled anger through their vote by choosing wisely rather than engaging in electoral violence.
That report from Enugu. The next one is from Port Harcourt.
Is no doubt going through challenging period, necessitating the need to devise new strategies towards addressing them. With the general elections just around the corner, Nigerians are eager to hear from the political parties and their candidates how they intend to address key areas. Energy, security, economy, human capital development, among others, have remained burning national issues for many. What, therefore, is the direction of political parties who will definitely need the votes of Nigerians to scale through towards addressing these issues? Here in Rivers State, the PDP prides itself in its consolidation agenda and achievements of the present leadership in the state.
We will ensure that we will work with the leaders of this LGA, we will work with the council chairman to ensure that the companies here work with our government. Yes, to provide employment, better opportunity.
For the APC, the well-being of the people counts, with priority to open up the hinterland and inclusive governance.
Women have no problem, have no fear. I, myself, I will defend your rights.
The SDP says it will focus on socio-economic reforms and human capital development, while the Accord Party intends to put the people first.
What we need to do is to go and do what we have agreed to do. Let us go and work.
It's about the people who want a government that will work for them. They want a government through which they can also realize their own aspirations for themselves.
A political scientist, Dr. Chris Akane, believes that power and security should drive the campaigns and also form the basis for the electorate to vote.
What are the things that will increase the greater happiness of Nigerians? What are the things that will bring high mass consumption for Nigerians? Employment, infrastructure, particularly electricity, roads, and water. These are basic things that Nigerians should demand from the political party.
Keen observers are of the view that the 2023 general elections will be a decider for the future of Nigeria. For this to happen, the electorate must also be wise in the choices they make. In Port Harcourt.
All right, now back to the studio, and some of the issues have been raised in those reports, and we'll ask the spokespersons for the parties that are here tonight to respond to those issues that have been raised. And easily, if you talk about what's going on in the country today, first they'll tell you the security. We started talking about it, but we agreed we would do so in greater detail at this point in time. Why would Nigerians look at the APC, the PDP, or the NNPP and say, yes, we're giving you our votes because we think that you have an answer to the wide-scale insecurity in the country? Let's start with you.
Well, yes, there is no doubt that there has been great spates of insecurity in the country in the last couple of years, and especially in the southeast and the northwest. There's no doubt about that. However, I think we would all admit that recently now, the more aggressive response that the government has had to some of this insecurity has sort of been able to address certain areas of it. But I would also want to take us back to 2015. When the APC came into government, you have to remember the northeast was literally a no-go area. You could not even walk inside Maiduguri. We had Boko Haram claiming some local governments. You had them hoisting their flags in some local governments. When the APC came, it was a struggle, but the APC Buhari government was able to address that to a certain extent, not completely. And we admittedly, some other issues came up. And then we've had the farmers and herders clashes, which hopefully has been addressed.
All right, I'll ask you to pause a while here. The calls have started coming in, and we have our first caller tonight who's calling in from Damaturu Mohammed from Damaturu, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Siri.
Yes, hello, Mohammed from Damaturu. Your question or comment?
Hello, Mr. Siri.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yeah, the PDP man was talking about doing something. PDP, when during its time for 16 years, the price for crude was between $80 and $100 per barrel. Yes, many states were unable to pay their salary for several months. When APC government came, you see, the oil price fell to below $20 per barrel. Yes, the government was able to advance funds to the state as bailout, or what do they call it, to be able to pay the backlog of salaries. Yes, they developed advance money for several infrastructure. Everything has almost fallen apart during the reign of the PDP. You know, when somebody is ill, you need to treat that person. So APC administration was rehabilitation and treatment for the illness Nigeria and Nigerians experience. So it takes a long period to be able to bring back the economy on top. You can see that the effort APC is making is huge. And we are seeing the infrastructure. We are seeing what is going on. The insecurity is being addressed drastically. So there are challenges, really. So, but the economy is down. The income for the government is very low. So PDP should not expect miracles from APC. Let's give APC the space that PDP had and see the miracle the APC government will come up with.
All right.
So PDP wants to open Nigeria.
Okay, Mohammed, you've made the point. Yes, you've made the point, Mohammed.
Can I quickly fact check it?
No, we'll give you the opportunity to respond. We just want you to finish up because I cut you right in the middle of it, and immediately after you'll have the opportunity to respond to the issues you just raised. You have them down there.
Yes, what
talking
I was
about
saying,
the crude oil prices and what.
Yes. I was just talking about the insecurity that we had spoken about before, and like I said, admittedly, you know, the state of insecurity has not really been anything to write home about. But we have to remember when the Buhari administration came into power in 2015, they inherited a terrible situation with Boko Haram, and it was like a disease that was sort of spreading and growing. But to a certain extent, the administration was able to sort of address that, even though some other issues came up. And then we had the farmers and herders clashes, which we've been able to address to a certain extent as well. And then we remember sometime last year, the situation of insecurity was at its height, specifically in the northwestern region. And then you had the government sort of give more aggressive responses, and to a very, very large extent, I think that even though we still have a long way to go, but I think the government has done quite a decent job in addressing some of these issues, whereby you couldn't even travel from Kaduna to Abuja. So definitely, I think we do have a long way to go, and this is why in his action plan, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a very intricate and robust plan for how he's going to tackle insecurity.
All right. So we still have your question in mind. Another caller on the line. Oladimeji, who's calling in from Ilorin. Oladimeji, go ahead.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, I wanted to disagree with the man from Damaturu on the fact that PDP has not been able to live up to standard during their reign. No, every Nigerian now will believe, because from the past 7.5 years, APC government has set Nigeria on auto reverse, and Nigeria is moving 1,000 kilometers backward. Okay, PDP government was able to, including the NTA, it was the PDP government that was able to make NTA to become a standard within the both private and other communications and information sector. One, PDP was able to improve the life of Nigerians through the means of communication. And
yes, Oladimeji, are you there?
We lost it. Unfortunately, we lost that.
Oh dear. We lost that call, but Oladimeji, if you can hear us, try and call back. We would like you to conclude what you started. But in the meantime, let's give the opportunity to...
Despite her
I don't know why he has to fact check. None of us are fact checking. You should have these...
Yeah, but you had a question from Mohammed.
Yes. And so to quickly clarify, oil prices did not average $100 for the entire reign of PDP between 1999 and 2015. Anybody who says so isn't telling the truth. Oil prices averaged maybe $61. When PDP came into power in 1999, the price of crude oil was $16.9 per barrel, lower than at any point during the APC years. The lowest the APC has ever fallen to, has ever experienced crude oil prices, was $35 per barrel. Lowest. That was more than double the lowest, the price that PDP inherited the Nigerian economy at. Yet, 1999 GDP growth was 0.58%. 2000 GDP growth was 5%, 5.0%. 2001 was 5.6%. 2002 was 15.3%. 2003, 7.9%. 2004, 9.6%. My point being that there was a sustained period of economic growth to the point that, speaking at Chatham House on February 1st, 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari, then the candidate of the APC, acknowledged that the PDP had grown the Nigerian economy at an average of 7% per annum. So if President Buhari is admitting that, seriously, I don't understand. Has the APC been able to point to that sort of growth? In their 8 years of power, the best that they've achieved is 3.2 or 3.4%, lower by more than half of the average that PDP gave this country. It goes without saying.
All right.
Much better country.
Okay. Next call coming from Bello in Zamfara. Bello, go ahead. Do we have Bello on the line?
Hello.
Yeah, hello, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead with a question or comment.
Yeah, my name is Bello Aliyu Mairiga from Zamfara. Series Tova, how was the day? Yeah, I have a question to PDP icon.
Wow, icon.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, Mr. PDP, I want to ask you about the last administration have gone for PDP. Like the other man say, this Boko Haram incident was started during the PDP administration in Nigeria.
Thank you for... Oh, is that the question?
Bello, are you making a comment or are you asking a question? All right.
I'd like to quickly. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to move on.
You didn't finish.
Well, Bello, if we can get you, we'll have to move on. Right, yes. You.
Again, the question, and okay.
Yes, go ahead. I don't think that's Bello still on the line.
No.
Probably have some interference from. Right, go ahead.
I would quickly like to address the issues. Two things that I'm going to say on the questions.
Obiora is calling from Abuja. Obiora, go ahead. Abuja.
Okay, I want to talk to the two political parties, saying their spokesperson, PDP and APC.
Okay.
I think that since 1999 till now, these two parties have been the parties in power, and they've laid a structure or structures that can no longer sustain Nigeria. If you consider the kind of people they have in their parties, they don't have people that have patriotism in them, people that want to build Nigeria. They have people that are interested in milking Nigeria. So I think going forward, we need a fresh, a breath of fresh air. Nigeria needs something new now, so that we can see if we can put Nigeria, in the right path. If we continue PDP, APC, the structure, the people supporting the two parties, they don't have the interest of Nigeria at heart. So we need a change. A change has to come. Most of these people travel to other countries to see how development, is in other countries. People have patriotism, they want to move their countries forward. But then we have in these parties people who are coming to make money. It's all about what they will make, how they can become powerful. You have very powerful people in Nigeria. There are no institutions. You don't have strong institutions, have powerful people. Supreme Court judgments are not obeyed. So many things happening wrong in Nigeria. So we don't need to be talking about from 1999 till now. It's been a disaster. So we need to chart a new course for Nigeria. I believe that the people in the studio, they travel abroad, they travel to other countries, even African countries, to see what is happening. So we need something new. We need characters that are not so corrupt. We need people that have integrity to pilot the affairs of this country. We have to check their track records. We don't need people that will buy their tickets, with dollar to continue. We need new people, people that will come out and love the country and they want to move the country forward. Corruption is too much. We need to think twice. It's too much. Thank you very much.
All right, Obiora, thank you very much.
Something to that. I think I've been very quiet because I let them have their way.
Right.
The fact of the matter, Obiora spoke a little bit of my mind, in the sense that I agreed with him to an extent, to say that PDP had its time, and we needed that break in 2015. APC sold us that break, but we didn't know what they were selling us. The products were not clearly defined. You remember even in 2015, President Buhari refused to go for debate and the rest of it, refused to talk to Nigerians. So it's very difficult to now hold him to anything. The man is tired. He wants to go and rest. So what I'm saying in other words is that we have tried a PDP. It didn't work so well. We have tried APC and they kept blaming PDP. As a nation, how can we grow? Blaming each other. So at this point, we need a fresh, new breath. Nigerians need something different, entirely different. Look, we can quote everything on Google that we want to quote. At the end of the day, like I said, what is the impact on the lives of Nigeria? What's the impact on that little child, that little girl, that little boy that needs to go to school that could not go to school? What's your excuse in 8 years that you've not built enough classrooms for pupils? What's your excuse for having HASU go out there doing nothing? And you have students, and I can only imagine what would have happened in those 8 months. What would be your excuse for not giving us the right infrastructure? This infrastructure, Second Niger Bridge is not the only infrastructure. If I want to go from here to Kwara State, I used to be able to travel anytime. I can't do it now. I cannot do it because of the federal roads. So we cannot continue to listen to who does this, who didn't do that. If you have the right people, you have the right resources, you have the goodwill, you are patriotic enough, you have the right people to use the resources. We have resources in this country, but unfortunately, we've not gotten the right leadership to manage our assets. And that's what we are saying, excuse me, in NMPP, that we are going to build 500,000 classrooms for children, for pupils in primary school, that the children of the poor will not have to pay for WAEC. Nobody is talking about that. Some children in this country could not go to university because they couldn't pay for JAM. It's all going to be free when we come there. In terms of security, we are talking about the ungoverned spaces. What are we going to do with that? There could be agricultural plantation, there could be housing units, a whole lot that could be done. Our military, we need to expand them, not necessarily for wars. There's so much militaries do all over the nation, or sorry, all over the globe, towards the development of nations.
All right.
So that is, we want to know what you want to do, how you want to do it, how it's going to impact us. So let's leave the blame game alone.
All right. I'll ask you to hang on a moment. Let's get this call in so we can take all the issues. And it is Abba calling in from Kanu. Abba, go ahead.
Okay. Hello. Hello. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Abba. Go on.
How are you? Thank you for your participation. My questions and observations goes to the two parties of APC and PDP.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, for the APC, please, Madam, what can you tell us about the allegations and sayings by Najatu Aka about your candidates, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that he has nothing he prepared for the North? What can you say about this? And for the PDP, we have seen Atiku has been the vice president for Nigeria for some time. Yes, actually, we have appreciated his effort. He has done his effort, but actually, we know being a vice president he's not a president. He has no any better power to decide what he wanted to do to the nation. We agree with it. But what is he planning toward the development of the nation, particularly the economic development, looking at how our economic policy and prospects are being going down, how the value of our currency is being depreciation day in, night out, and inflation is growing so much fast in the country. And the gap between the lower and the upper class continues to be widening, which is almost because of other what do I call it, crimes and what have you. I agree with the statement of the Madam, which she has just concluded, that schools were being closed for more than 2 years or so without the lower class people having chance to study very well in the schools. And as well, what about the farmers, the businessmen in the nation? What are the plans towards it? Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Abba. The response straight away.
Well, the first, I would want to just respond to Mr. Obiora earlier on that said that, people didn't have the candidates, or certain candidates did not, specifically of the APC and the PDP, do not have sort of sincerity of purpose. I would disagree with that. I think all the candidates that have presented themselves have sincerity of purpose and really do want what is in the best interest of Nigeria. And I think it would be, at this juncture, very important for all the candidates to sort of get off this moral turpitude, to think that there's some sort of on a moral, some paragon of virtue beyond anybody else. Because like my sister, Miss Juliet, right? Miss Fola, sorry.
It's okay.
I've just baptized you. So my sister, Mrs. Fola Shadi, we have to remember her principal was a member of PDP and APC at the time they were supposed to do all the ills that she has she has enunciated. So, you know, at what point does he divorce himself from some of the bad decisions or some of the challenges that came up in the parties? He was a member of PDP when they were in government, and he was a member of APC when they were in government. So at this point, I think all the candidates need to come down from that moral high ground that they're on and instead present their action plan and their vision for the future of Nigeria. There's no paragon of virtue in this. Everybody is just trying to do what is right in the interest of Nigeria. And very quickly, the gentleman from Kano did ask. One of our campaign council members spoke about Asiwaju's non-plan for Ariwa. I will tell you something. One of the reasons why I agreed to join this campaign council was because of the very intimate ideas that he had for Ariwa, specifically in the area of Almajiri, which is something that is a real problem in the north, and especially in the area also of industry, textile industry, agriculture, a very, very strong agricultural policy that will be able to bring resurgence to Ariwa. So I don't know, and I've spoken in the past about experiences. It is not for me to speak about anybody else's experience with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But from my experience of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think Ariwa will be the better for it, and is the reason why we are telling them to give him the sort of support that is needed for him to be returned as the winner in the upcoming election.
Right, let's hear Onoja.
Okay, so very quickly to address this issues about questions about Boko Haram. We must remember, and this is the recent history, it's not very far away history, we must remember that the only reason why the elections could be conducted in 2015 was because there had been an aggressive pushback against Boko Haram that made it possible for elections to be conducted. Granted, we'd had challenges with that, and we had those regrettable incidents where Boko Haram had the temerity to hoist flags on Nigerian territory. They paid dearly for that temerity, and they were pushed back to the fringes of the mountains along the border of our country, and then Niger and Chad and Cameroon. Serious military operation that pushed them back very strongly. It was on that basis that we were able to have elections in the areas that people say that these things were. But if anybody wants to talk about the etymology of Boko Haram, we must also talk about the allegations that have long existed around the participation of the APC vice presidential candidate in its formulation. And those accusations didn't come from within the PDP. They came from his predecessor in office. Now, to move directly to answer the question about what are the plans for the economy. The plans for the economy are to get our people back to work. Okay. But how? Do I stop so that we can take
No, just for a while, because the caller from Lafayette has been waiting for some time on the line. If he's still there. Hello? Shadrach, if you're there. Shadrach from Lafayette.
Yes, I am there.
Let's hear your question quickly.
Okay. Good morning, the PDP man.
Okay, good morning. Only me.
Like your beard.
Good morning, sir.
And that's all he was able to do.
Shadrach, are you still there?
I'm flattered.
Hello?
Good morning.
Can we confirm if Shadrach is still on the line?
Your name, please.
No, he's not? Okay, so we'll just let you conclude what...
We believe that government cannot create jobs for all our people. The best way to create jobs in whatever industry, in whatever sector of the economy is, and this is our belief, this is the belief system in the PDP, is to get government out of as many sectors of the government, of the economy as possible, and allow private sector participation. Liberalize the economy. Let private sector capital come in. Let private sector creativity and ingenuity come in. That is where you create jobs. You create jobs at the small, medium, and micro levels. That is how you improve your employment numbers. That is how you improve the economy. And so we believe that government should play its regulatory role to make sure that there are no developments of monopolies and you don't have the big companies trample all over the small businesses. But ultimately, government has no business in business. It is the fundamental abiding principle of the party. And I'd like to end on, there was one question. Okay, when I remember the question.
Okay, well, fine.
Can I just say
we have a Godwin, I believe. Okay. Godwin from Rivers calling in. Hello, Godwin.
Yeah.
Yes, Godwin, talk to us. Right, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Godwin. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
Fine, go right ahead with your question or comment.
Okay, I just want to make this point. Okay, the point I want to make is that the North have tried their best. The West have tried their best, which is Obasanjo, and South, Jonathan, have also tried their best. Let's give an evil man a chance to do and to rule us also, and know his own capacity also. So I would like us to vote for LP. Let PDP and APC relax. They have lead us to, they have destroyed Nigeria. They have finished us.
Okay.
All right.
Can I respond?
Thank you very much, Godwin from Rivers. Right.
I was trying to complete that. And then I'll quickly like to address what the NNPP representative has been saying about ungoverned spaces. There are no ungoverned spaces in Nigeria. Yeah. It becomes a question of who governs these spaces. If terrorists govern a space, they're governing it. It's not ungoverned. The approach is to get the illegal governments out of those places and then re-establish these places as Nigerian territories. Okay. If you have terrorists hoisting up flags, collecting taxes, they are government. They're just not the right government. The approach from the People's Democratic Party is to reclaim these territories, re-establish them as Nigerian territories, and then to put an adequate, proper, responsive Nigerian government over those spaces. There are no ungoverned spaces.
Can I just say something that he mentioned earlier on about an allegation, a ridiculous allegation about Alhaji Kashim Shettima. I think it is absolutely disgusting. Anybody would look at the person of Alhaji Kashim Shettima and try to attribute some form of terrorism attached to him. I mean, that is an allegation. There's no proof to it. This is a man that went through the most troubling time when there was the Chibok abductions. He went to the then president, emotional, for them to intervene in the situation that was happening with the Boko Haram in his state. And if we're talking about allegations, there are allegations left, right, and center. We have people on videotape being their voices heard about allegation of them doing SPV or what have you. We have the former president making allegations at the PDP candidate, but you don't see us jumping on that. Because if there was any truth to any of these allegations, you take it through the law courts. You cannot make allegations and defame people in the way that one has done to call somebody like Alhaji Kashim Shettima. But you know, on this sponsor of Boko Haram, but you know, on this issue, I'm going to do a Michelle Obama on him. He goes low, I'm going to go high. I'm not going to talk about allegations, because if there's any allegation, we take it to the law courts.
All right.
But it's absolutely ridiculous to say that.
Let's return to the NNPP spokesperson.
Well, thank you very much.
Right.
First, there are ungoverned spaces. Secondly, the fact of the matter is still that Nigeria, you ask yourself, some people talk as if some of us don't live in this country. Then you ask yourself, what's the value of the life of a Nigerian? And that's what my principal, distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, is saying, that every child you see on that road that's not where it's supposed to be, I look at that child as my child. Every life that has been lost over the years, you'll see even recently, some people died in Castina and, there was still a rally, as if nothing happened. Now, I want to also tell you that this Boko Haram on governed spaces, they move from Maiduguri to Kaduna, is still Nigeria. The only industry that is thriving today in Nigeria is banditry and kidnapping. God forbid we experience it. Like I said earlier on, I've seen people that have experienced this, and this is nothing to write home about. In terms of the economic value, I think the policies of government matters. You can tell everybody in the whole world we're open for business. If the policies that you put in place is driving companies out of Nigeria to the neighboring countries, we have not done well. And that's why the few that are here, you want to tax them to death. And when you put too much taxes, they are not employing anybody. The way that the policy is going in Nigeria today, I don't want to talk, we could go as far back as 1960 before independence. It's not going to do us any good. Right now in Nigeria, how do we correct unemployment? Yes, government cannot employ everybody. Nobody expects that. Nobody does that across the globe. However, the government policy is very integral to any business activity.
Okay, let's take this to a different level. You have all spoken about what your parties are promising the citizens of Nigeria. How do you respond to what some say that you shouldn't be talking about provision of infrastructure, improvement in the education system, because these are rights, and that is what governments are elected to do in the first place. So we should be talking about how you go beyond all of that. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, of course, we have to go beyond all of that, but it's an evolution, isn't it? Ours is a very still very young democracy.
That presupposes that these things have not been addressed.
Yes, maybe they haven't. We had a military rule before now. It was in 1999, it was almost as if it was ground zero. So we had to sort of explore and experience this sort of democracy. What I have seen in the last decade or 2 decades or so is the evolution of this democracy. And this, you can see this more than anything in the way that people are getting involved. Because of these issues, people want to have their voices heard, want to be able to play a part in making those decisions. But effectively, I believe the great things about democracy is that, and especially the sort of democracy that we operate, is that its effects are very visible, and through this process we're able to address it. So we hope that for Nigerians, 93.4 million registered voters will be able to look at all these candidates, to interrogate them as people, to also look at what plans they have, what programs, policy framework they are presenting to Nigerians, and they will make their decision. Hopefully, in 11 days' time, they will make that decision, and hopefully, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be the one that will be declared as winner at the end of the day.
Right. While I agree that these are rights, the fundamental rights, not just rights, fundamental rights. There's a whole chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution that is dedicated to these objectives: educational objectives, economic objectives, political objectives, and what have you. What the three of us represent here, and what other political parties represent, is the difference in the prism from which you view these rights, from which you view these objectives. And so one person sits down here and says we need to get a smaller government, and so that we can get better private sector participation. And then another person has a history of, you know what, we want a bigger government and bigger regulation than we want private sector participation. What we're asking people to vote for is the difference in the prism. It is a right, we agree. But one person says, you know what, I would rather empower the economy, I would rather a bigger economy that empowers the parent to provide for the child. And another person says, you know what, our policies, well, they're impoverished people, let the children come and eat at school. And then, there's that difference. One person says, you know what, we want to rework our security framework so that we have state policing, community policing, and what have you. And another person believes, no, let us maintain what we have, which is a federal hold on power. When you're asking people to vote, you're voting for the difference in the view of the difference from the position with which you view what these fundamental rights are. And then what we're doing here effectively is saying, look at our plans, and by reason of our plans, your ability to enjoy those rights rests better with me than with anybody else. It's really that simple. So we understand that they're rights.
Yeah.
We understand that they're rights. And we're just saying we are better capable of helping the Nigerian people enjoy those rights than the other political parties.
Right. Well, for us, we believe that bringing governance to the people, to the grassroots, engaging people. We have a program in our manifesto or our blueprint that talks about community participation and reorientation program. What has not been done so far? If you ask me what are we doing differently? Bringing governance to the grassroots, engaging people, whether at the education level, whether at the infrastructure level, whether at conflict resolution. We believe that what has not been done, even when you're talking about community policing, when community knows themselves, and what this reminds me is the local content aspect of what we are doing in Nigeria as a federal government. Applying the local content rule to everything we do so that we can engage our people. So bringing governance to people has a lot of advantages. Whether you want to talk about the security, you want to talk about economy, you want to talk about, just like I said, conflict resolution, you want to talk about development, because people owns these projects. And like I will say to every Nigerian today, that our campaign is your campaign. It's all about you and your family. If you go into our manifesto, our blueprint, all we say is that we need a better Nigeria because it's possible. And how we are going to do it is clearly stated. The funds that we're going to raise to do it, it's already there. It's clearly stated. So the fact of the matter is that we can continue to talk. You look at the history of the principal of the candidates in this instance. Look at what they have done over the years. Look at the impacts they have made on lives and people in their domain over the years. Look at how they have bring their states from one level to the other in terms of development over the years. Look at what they have done about education over the years, human capital development over the years. Look at how they brought businesses back to their domain over the years. And look at the decisions they've made, even my principal as a minister of defense. Look at his accomplishment. Look, you have to engage people. It's not all about money. And what we are saying today is that our campaign is about the fact that tomorrow, whether you have billions of nairas or dollars or you do not, you have the opportunity to become whatever you want to become in this country and make Nigeria a better place for all of us. Then what I also wanted to share is that in this election, it's not about entitlement. It's not about entitlement. It is about who has the capacity, the leadership, accessibility, who is objective enough to lead this country. We are at a very, very critical crossroad, and we need to think twice. PDP has had its time, APC has had its time, and it's getting worse. There must be a U-turn at this point in time, and we need a leadership that is dedicated. Integrity says a lot. Integrity says a lot. My principal, distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, he has been in governance over the years. And for him to remain standing, it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of commitment. And it takes a lot of dedication to duty.
All right.
Thank you.
We're just about rounding off on this program now. And so just give you the opportunity to, in just a minute, round up on what your parties are doing to ensure that the polls will be devoid of. Yes, we know sometimes the parties can say their supporters are beyond them, but what your parties are doing to ensure that the supporters do not go overboard and stick to the rules of the game.
Let the man have the floor first. Let's say from
If it's before VT.
Wow. Okay. At the People's Democratic Party, we believe that there's a fundamental desire to provide leadership to a country. We don't want to be president of the ashes. And if people come out and perpetrate acts of violence and destruction, what we will have is a country that is ashes. We believe that the power of choice is supreme, and that fundamentally in a democratic setup, where that power of choice resides is with the people. It's why the slogan of the party is power to the people. We're asking the people, come out, exercise your democratic right to vote, and vote for the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar.
Right.
You know, what we want is a progressive Nigeria. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has spent the best part of his life fighting for the freedom of Nigeria and protecting those freedoms. He has spent his time in administration building a state, of course, leveraging on what was there before and building it to a point that it is the pivot point, it is the glory of Nigeria, or probably Africa itself. This is a man who really does have the vision, and I keep on saying the sincerity of purpose, to be able to do what is right for Nigeria. And we want all our supporters to just focus on the next 11 days. Do not cause anything that will disrupt the victory of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to go out in mass and vote for him. And I think in the next 12 days, my brother here will be calling me to congratulate me, because Asiwaju will be the next president.
All right, let's hear you.
Well, thank you so very much for having us. For us, we are not going to separate the party from the candidate. We have a core belief that every Nigerian has the opportunity to associate with whoever they choose to. And I will tell you basically that if you go into the Northwest, that is our stronghold. All of the political parties have been able to go in and out of that place without much, of an incident. And I already shared with you that the National Peace Committee, did a poll, and they did some monitoring and evaluation, and they were able to distinguish NNPP out to say that we have not recorded any incident that is associated with our party. So what we are telling Nigerians is that this election is very critical to each and every one of us, to our families, to our businesses, to our country, and to us as a people. So please go out. If they give you money, please take the money, but vote your conscience. Thank you.
All right, and it is on that note, as I always say, no one program can capture all the issues. It is on that note we must end this conversation and leave it for another time, and say thank you to our guests, Hannatu Musawa, Deputy Spokesperson, All Progressives Congress, APC. It's been interesting having you on the
Thank you,
program.
Mr. Stover. It's a pleasure to have interacted with you in this way.
Right, thank you. Barrister Ilemona Onoja, Director, New Media, PDP Presidential Campaign Organization.
Thank you very much. I grew up holding you as an icon of the journalism profession.
And he remains
to be on your program, interacting you in this manner is a privilege I do not take lightly.
Thank you. And Folashade Aliyu, National Campaign Secretary, NNPP Presidential Campaign Organization. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much, Wes. I'm so delighted to be on this program, and I'm hoping and I want to believe that Nigerians have learned a lot from you and from your program. And please continue the good works.
Thank you. All right. So thank you for those who participated, who called in. Thank you. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.